So picture this. You're just, you're sitting on your couch, minding your own business. It's a random Tuesday evening, and your phone buzzes.
Like it does 100 times a day.
Exactly. You look down, and it's a video call from an unknown number. But the profile picture is this fairly attractive face. Maybe someone you vaguely recognize, or, I don't know, maybe just someone who sparks a tiny bit of curiosity.
Right. You think maybe it's a coworker.
Yeah. Or like, did I match with this person somewhere? Or is this a new client whose number I just didn't save? So you hit the green accept button, and 3 seconds later, your life, as you know it, is effectively over.
It's terrifying, but it happens exactly that fast. I mean, 3 seconds to go from a totally mundane evening to just complete and utter panic.
It's wild. So today we are doing a deep dive into the mechanics of this kind of digital ambush. We're looking at a profoundly disturbing, rapidly growing epidemic. Specifically, we're focusing on how it's exploding in India right now, though, the implications apply to literally anyone holding a smartphone anywhere in the world.
Absolutely anyone.
We are talking about the epidemic of sextortion. And if you're listening right now, consider this deep dive your emergency briefing. We want to deconstruct the trap, basically. We really want to understand the deeply sophisticated psychological and technical warfare these scammers use against everyday people.
Yeah.
And most importantly, we're going to arm you with the exact step-by-step extraction playbook for survival.
Yeah, because the reality is the mechanics of this particular crime are fundamentally different from what most people picture when they hear the word cybercrime.
Right, you picture a guy in a hoodie.
Exactly. The classic hacker in a dark room, brute forcing a password, or injecting malicious code into a database. But this is entirely different.
It's not about stealing your password at all. Sextortion, just to define it clearly based on our sources, is the act of using someone's private photos, videos, or even manipulated fake digital interactions to blackmail them and demand money. But honestly, that definition almost makes it sound like a standard financial transaction, right? Like, give me money or I release the tape. But the underlying reality is so much darker than that.
It is significantly darker. The foundational concept you really need to understand here is that this is not just about stealing money. The financial theft is almost secondary in a way.
Wait, really? Secondary?
Yeah, because what we are really looking at is a highly weaponized form of severe mental torture. You have to think of it less like a traditional scam and more like ransomware. But instead of encrypting the files on your computer's hard drive, they are encrypting your social reputation.
Oh, wow.
They're locking up your dignity, your entire standing in your community. They basically lock up your life and demand a ransom to give it back.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because comparing it to ransomware on your social reputation, that completely changes the perspective for me.
Yep.
To understand how they install that ransomware, we need to know who they are infecting. Who is actually in the crosshairs here? If I'm just an everyday person, a student, a mid-level manager, am I really a target?
You absolutely are. The data in our sources shows 4 very distinct demographic profiles being heavily targeted right now. So that's youth, students, working professionals, and individuals who are actively seeking connection, who are often categorized simply as lonely users.
Right.
And the scammers aren't just, casting a blind net and hoping for the best. They operate way more like apex predators. They are actively scanning the digital ecosystem, looking for very specific vulnerabilities associated with each of those specific groups.
So it's completely calculated. It's not random. Let's dig into that targeting mechanism a bit. Imagine you're a high schooler or a college student. You are, by definition, chronically online. Your entire social ecosystem, your whole identity, basically exists on platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and WhatsApp.
Right. And for a student, their digital reputation is their actual reputation. They don't have a 30-year career to fall back on if something goes wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Plus, you are dealing with a developing brain that is highly susceptible to peer pressure. They're operating in a life stage where social standing among their peers means absolutely everything. And the scammers know this. They know exactly how to scrape open Instagram profiles, find out what school the kid goes to, who their friends are, who they tag in their photos.
And then there's the fear of parental judgment. Just think back to being a teenager. The absolute terror of your parents finding out you did something. Well, compromising. It's completely paralyzing.
Totally.
If I put myself in the shoes of a 19-year-old victim, the thought isn't, oh, how do I involve the police? The thought is, I will do anything. I will drain my savings. I will steal from my parents' wallets just to make sure my mom never sees this.
Exactly. The scammer leverages that inherent power dynamic. They weaponize the victim's fear of disappointing or shaming their family. And the crazy part is, they don't even need advanced hacking skills for this. They just need to understand basic teenage psychology.
Right.
But then look at how the tactic completely shifts when they target the next group, the working professionals. This requires an entirely different kind of psychological leverage.
Because if you threaten to tell a 35-year-old accountant's mom about a scandalous video, the accountant might just say, go ahead, she'll survive. Like, the threat model totally changes. Working professionals have established careers. They sit on boards, they manage teams, they might be married with kids.
And crucially, they have the financial means to actually pay a substantial ransom.
Right. The money.
Yeah, a student might panic and wire $50. A working professional might have access to significant savings, credit lines, or, emergency funds. They are high-value targets. The scammer knows that a professional will sit in their office sweating, doing a horrific cost-benefit analysis. The victim literally calculates the cost of the ransom, say $500 or $1,000, against the catastrophic cost of their career, their marriage, and their public reputation going up in flames. And mathematically, in that state of sheer panic, paying seems like the logical business decision.
That is so dark. You're sitting in a boardroom, checking your phone under the table, literally putting a dollar value on your own dignity. It's treating a human life like a corporate risk assessment. But wait, how do the scammers even know you're a professional? Are they just guessing based on a photo?
No, not at all. They are using open source intelligence, or OSINT.
OSINT, okay.
It sounds incredibly technical, but it really just means they looked at publicly available information. They find your LinkedIn profile. They see you are a senior director of marketing. They see the company you work for. They look at your company's page and see who the CEO is, who the HR director is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they literally build a dossier on you before they even send the first message. They know exactly who to threaten to inflict maximum damage.
That is terrifying. It's basically corporate espionage applied to petty extortion. And then we have the demographic that honestly breaks my heart the most. The people seeking connection, the lonely users.
It is deeply cynical. These are individuals who are emotionally vulnerable. They are actively seeking a spark, they are on dating apps, or maybe they're just reaching out in Facebook groups looking for someone to talk to. By definition, they are predisposed to want to trust someone. When that friendly message arrives, their brain wants to believe it's genuine.
It's like the scammers are using emotional heat vision to spot the vulnerability. They look out across the internet and they don't see human beings. They just see glowing red targets of loneliness, career anxiety, or teenage insecurity. But wait, I want to push back on something here.
Sure.
When we hear about these scams, there's often this subtle undercurrent of victim blaming. People say, well, why would you accept a call from a stranger? Why would you ever send a photo? But what you're describing isn't someone falling for a dumb trick. This is a highly calculated exploitation of human nature.
That is a vital distinction to make. We absolutely have to stop viewing this as a failure of the victim's intelligence. It is a social engineering attack. The technology, the smartphone, the Wi-Fi is merely the delivery mechanism. The actual breach happens in the victim's psychology.
The brain is the hardware being hacked.
Exactly.
Right.
The scammer bypasses your technical firewall and goes straight for your emotional firewall. And unfortunately, human emotions like fear, shame, and loneliness are much easier to hack than a secure server.
Okay, so we know who is in the crosshairs, and we know why they are vulnerable. But how does the actual attack play out? Like, how do you go from swiping on an app to having your life threatened? The mechanics of this are wild, and our sources outline 3 distinct pillars of deception ranging from, immediate ambushes to incredibly elaborate long cons. Let's break down method 1, which we can call the ambush. Walk me through the exact technical and psychological setup of this.
So, the setup for the ambush is designed to be incredibly disarming, and it relies entirely on speed. It usually begins with a message from an unknown account on WhatsApp, Instagram, or even just a simple SMS text. And as we discussed in the hook, the profile picture is attractive. The initial contact isn't aggressive or overly sexual at all. It's just friendly. Hi, how are you? Or, hey, is this John? I think we met last week.
That hooks your curiosity.
Yeah.
And because it's just text, your guard is relatively low. You might just reply, sorry, wrong number, or who is this?
Exactly. And the moment you reply, you're confirming that the number is active and there is a human on the other end. That's when the scammer initiates the strike. Without any warning, they upgrade that benign text chat to a video call.
Okay, this is the 3-second window. You have a split second to decide. And because humans are generally polite, curious, and frankly, we're just used to answering our phones, a huge number of people will hit that green accept button, just to see who it is.
Right. And the instant the call connects, the trap snaps shut. The victim is not greeted by the attractive person from the profile picture. Instead, the singer is broadcasting highly explicit, sexually graphic content directly onto the screen.
I really want to pause here and highlight what happens in the human brain in that exact second. You answer a call, expecting a face, maybe, confused conversation about a wrong number, and suddenly you are blasted with explicit imagery. There is a massive cognitive dissonance. Your brain literally cannot process the data it is receiving. You are shocked, your eyes go wide, you're confused, and you're immediately scrambling, fumbling with your phone to find the red end call button.
And that scramble, those 3 to 5 seconds of sheer disorientation, is the only thing the scammer needs. Because what the victim doesn't realize is that the scammer has a screen recording application running in the background. From the millisecond the call connected, they have been recording the victim's front-facing camera.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they are capturing the victim's face, their wide eyes, their reaction, physically looking at the explicit content on the screen.
Oh, well. So the scammer now has a high-definition video of the victim staring intently at their phone, looking shocked or confused. But how does that become blackmail? It's literally just a video of my face looking surprised.
Well, this is where the technological manipulation comes in, and the tools to do this have become terrifyingly accessible. The scammer takes that 5-second clip of your face and they edit it. They might use basic split-screen software to place your face side by side with the explicit video, making it look like a mutual interactive session.
Right.
Or increasingly, they use rudimentary AI face-swapping tools, which require zero coding knowledge and run on basic Telegram bots, by the way, to splice your face directly onto the body of the person in the explicit video.
That is horrifying because they turn around, send that newly edited video right back to you on WhatsApp and say, look what I have. And from your perspective as the victim, the threat feels entirely real. You look at it, you see your own face sitting in your own living room attached to this horrific context. You are already disoriented, your adrenaline is spiking, and you genuinely believe that an incredibly compromising video of you now exists in the world.
Yeah. What's fascinating and terrifying about this specific tactic is its sheer velocity. It relies entirely on immediate, overwhelming shock. There is no time for the victim to think critically, to, notice the blurry edges of the face swap, or to analyze the situation rationally. The scammer manufactures a crisis out of thin air and immediately demands a ransom to resolve it. The speed itself is the primary weapon.
It's an ambush in the truest sense. It bypasses all your logic centers. But what if I'm the kind of person who never answers random video calls? Let's say I'm hypervigilant about unknown numbers. Am I safe from sextortion?
Not necessarily, because if the ambush doesn't work, scammers seamlessly pivot to method 2. And this is the exact opposite pacing. If method 1 is the ambush, method 2 is the slow burn, the honeypot, the long con.
How does the honeypot operate? Because this feels much more insidious since it requires active participation from the victim.
It does. It requires significantly more patience and psychological manipulation from the scammer. They begin by creating elaborate, highly convincing fake profiles. They steal hundreds of photos of a single attractive person from, obscure social media accounts to create a deep, believable grid. They set these profiles up across Instagram, Facebook, and very notably, dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, or Hinge.
I want to really dig into the use of dating apps for this. It is such a sinister vector for attack. Think about the architecture of a dating app. It is an environment built entirely on the premise of dropping your guard. You go on a dating app specifically because you are looking to be vulnerable, to open up, to make a connection. You are inherently primed to trust the person you match with because that's the whole point of the platform.
Exactly. The environment itself does half the psychological heavy lifting for the scammer. When they get a match, they don't immediately ask for money. They invest time. They might spend days or even weeks messaging the victim. They use scripts, literally pre-written conversational flowcharts, to build rapport. They share fake personal stories about their childhood. They ask how the victim's workday went. They feign genuine emotional interest. They are actively, meticulously manufacturing trust.
They're building the complete architecture of a fake relationship. And for the victim, especially if they fall into that lonely user demographic, this feels incredible. Your brain is getting flooded with dopamine. You finally feel seen. You feel desired. You are leaning heavily into this connection. You start thinking about meeting up, about the future.
You are completely invested. And all the while, the scammer is monitoring your responses, waiting for the precise moment when your emotional defenses are fully lowered. Once they determine that the trust is sufficiently solidified, they initiate the strike. But because of the rapport, the strike isn't framed as an ambush. It's framed as a natural escalation of intimacy.
Right.
The scammer will suggest moving the conversation off the dating app to WhatsApp or Telegram. Then they will request a private photo, or they will suggest initiating an intimate video chat.
And the victim complies because they believe they are in a safe, private, mutually trusting relationship. They let their guard down entirely and engage in the video chat or send the photos, believing it's just a private moment between two people exploring a romance.
And exactly like in the ambush method, every single second of it is being screen recorded. The moment the scammer has the undeniable material, the real photos, the real video, the mask drops. The affectionate, caring partner vanishes instantaneously. They are replaced by a hostile extortionist, followed immediately by a demand for money.
The psychological whiplash of that is almost impossible to comprehend. Imagine going from feeling loved, connected, and physically vulnerable to realizing in a split second that you have been entirely manipulated. The person you were just being intimate with is now holding a digital knife to your throat. It's breathtakingly cruel. It literally shatters your reality.
It is a profound violation, and that violation makes the subsequent extortion even more effective because the victim is emotionally shattered, grieving the loss of the fake relationship, and terrified of the blackmail all at the same time. They are incapable of fighting back.
Which brings us to the third pillar of this deception, the execution phase. Once the scammer has the material, whether they manufactured it in the ambush or extracted it in the honeypot, how do they actually drop the hammer? What does the direct blackmail look like, and how do they make it so convincing?
The threats are designed to create a 360-degree sphere of absolute panic. The scammer will send messages stating, "Send 10,000 rupees right now," or "This goes viral." But they don't just leave it vague, they get highly specific. They will say, "I have your entire contact list. I know who your mother is. I know your boss's name. I am going to upload this to YouTube, tag your company on Facebook, and send the link directly to your sister."
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you there, because this is the technical detail that terrifies people the most. How do they actually get your contact list? Do they hack your phone remotely? Is it like malware?
Usually, it is much simpler than malware, and it comes down to app permissions and API vulnerabilities. Sometimes during the honeypot phase, the scammer might convince the victim to download a specific, seemingly harmless app, maybe a quote-unquote secure video chat app they claim to prefer. The moment the victim installs it, the app asks for permission to access contacts. People blindly hit allow all the time. Instantly, the scammer's server scrapes every name, number, and email in the victim's phone.
Oh, wow. So you hand them the contacts yourself without realizing it.
Yes. Alternatively, if they don't use a malicious app, they use social media graphing. If your Facebook friends list is public, or if your Instagram shows who you follow and who follows you back, they use automated scraping tools to map your entire social network in seconds. They cross-reference names, find where people work, and build a targeted hit list of the people whose opinions you care about most.
They were systematically lining up every pillar of your life, your family, your career, your public reputation, and threatening to detonate a bomb under all of them simultaneously. But there is a specific twist you mentioned in the notes that elevates this from just social terror to actual institutional terror. The fake authority tactic. How does this work?
This is where the syndicates really show their sophistication. They escalate the panic by introducing a second attacker into the scenario. So the victim is already paralyzed with fear, staring at the threats on WhatsApp. Suddenly their phone rings. The caller ID might even display a name like Cybercrime Branch or a local police precinct.
Caller ID spoofing.
Exactly. Using basic voice over IP software, a scammer can make any number or name appear on your caller ID. The victim answers, and a stern, authoritative voice on the other end claims to be a police inspector or a cybercrime official. They use legal jargon. They might say, "We have intercepted a viral video containing illicit content associated with your IP address. A digital FIR, a first information report, is being generated."
Oh, that is diabolical. You're already panicking that your mom is going to see the video. Now you think you're going to jail.
It creates total sensory overload. The fake police officer will then offer a way out. We'll say, "To prevent this from going onto the public registry, or to settle the case out of court, you need to pay an immediate processing fee or a fine." They might even send a forged PDF document with fake government seals to make it look official.
So they are seamlessly blending technical threats, the ability to mass distribute the video to scrape contacts, with institutional threats, the fake authority of law enforcement. As a victim, everywhere you look, there's a wall closing in on you. But this raises a fundamental question, a massive contradiction, really. If someone is extorting you, if a fake cop is asking for a bribe, the logical, rational response should be to hell up, drive to an actual physical police station, walk up to the desk and say, "I am being blackmailed." Why don't victims do that? Why is this scam so unbelievably successful at keeping people quiet?
To answer that, we have to examine the core psychological engine that drives this entire criminal enterprise. The engine is the weaponization of shame. Shame is the most powerful paralyzing agent in the human emotional spectrum. The primary element of sextortion isn't just fear of losing money, it is the absolute terror of public humiliation.
Let's really get inside the victim's mind here. When that threat lands, when the scammer proves they have your sister's phone number and the explicit video, what is the actual internal monologue? What is racing through the victim's head?
The internal monologue is a catastrophic projection of absolute social annihilation. The victim is paralyzed by thoughts like, what will my spouse think? My career's over, I'll be fired by morning, my friends are going to mock me behind my back forever, how can I ever look my parents in the eye again? They are anticipating the permanent, irreversible loss of respect from everyone they love and rely on.
And the really brutal part is that it doesn't matter if the video is completely fake, like in the ambush scenario with the AI face swap, or real, like in the honeypot scenario. The fear of the judgment is identical because, let's be honest about how society consumes digital media. If a scandalous video of you gets sent to your family WhatsApp group or your company Slack channel, context doesn't matter. A scandalous thumbnail is a scandalous thumbnail.
Precisely. The victim isn't sitting there thinking, well, I can easily prove this is a deep fake by analyzing the pixel distortion around my chin. They are thinking about the immediate, visceral horror of their mother opening that message. They know that even if they are eventually cleared, the stigma, the whisper network, will remain. The damage is done the second the video is viewed.
It's like a digital padlock that the scammer snaps shut over your mouth. And the tragic irony of this entire crime is that you are holding the key to that padlock in your hand the entire time. The key is simply speaking up. The key is telling someone, reporting it to the real authorities. But the scammer has convinced you that the second you put the key in the lock, the bomb goes off. So you lock yourself in solitary confinement. You become your own jailer.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize the dynamic. We must synthesize what this actually means for the balance of power. Silence is not just a byproduct of the scam. Silence is the actual, tangible power source for the scammer. The entire extortion model is built on a foundation of your isolation. Without your silence, without your absolute belief that you must carry this horrific secret alone, the scam collapses. The scammer actually has very little real-world power. They only have the power that your shame grants them.
Okay, so driven by this immense crushing weight of shame, feeling completely isolated, sweating in your living room, you make a choice. You look at your banking app. You see you have enough to cover the demand. You scrape together the funds. You make the transfer. You watch the money leave your account, and you let out a massive sigh of relief, desperately hoping that this satisfies the predator, that they will delete the video, and that you can just go to sleep and pretend this nightmare never happened. But what actually happens when you pay?
This brings us to the most critical, counterintuitive reality of sextortion: the illusion of the one-time payment. It is the hardest thing for a panicked victim to accept, but paying the ransom is the absolute worst thing you can possibly do. It violates every survival instinct you have in that moment, but it is an undeniable fact.
Why? If a mugger asks for your wallet in an alley, you give them the wallet and they run away. Why is digital extortion different? What happens on the scammer's back end when that payment notification pops up on their screen? They don't just say, "Pleasure doing business with you," and hit delete.
Absolutely not. You have to think about this from the perspective of their business operations. These syndicates operate like dark corporations. They cast a massive net, initiating thousands of ambushes and honeypots a day. Most people ignore them, block them, or realize it's a scam. But when a victim actually transfers money, it sends a massive signal flare to the entire syndicate.
It tells them the vulnerability is real.
Exactly. The scammer realizes they don't just have a target. They have a compliant victim. They have found a psychological vein that yields cash. You are no longer just a random phone number. You are now flagged in their CRM, their customer relationship management system, literally as a payer.
Wait, they have a CRM for victims?
Yeah.
So paying doesn't signal the end of the transaction. It signals the beginning of a highly profitable long-term relationship for the scammer. You've essentially subscribed to your own blackmail.
That is exactly what happens. The reality is, once the money is sent, the blackmail never permanently stops. Instead of deleting the content, the scammer immediately escalates. They might give you a few hours of relief to let your heart rate come down, but the next morning, the messages start again.
How do they even justify asking for more? Didn't you already pay the ransom?
They invent incredibly creative administrative hurdles. They will say, okay, you pay the deletion fee, but now I need an editing fee to remove it from the cloud server. Or they introduce a new character. I was going to delete it, but my manager saw the file, and now he wants his cut. Otherwise, he's going to release it.
It's an endless escalation matrix.
Mhm.
And if you balk, if you say you don't have any more money, what do?
They turn up the pressure. They will begin contacting you from multiple new different phone numbers and social media accounts. This is designed to make you feel like the walls are closing in, that you are being hunted by an entire army, not just one guy in a basement.
So if we look at the psychological trap here, paying doesn't buy freedom. It validates their entire business model. You are funding your own continued torture. Every single time you transfer money, you are providing empirical proof to the scammer that their threats are effective. You guarantee that they will threaten you again tomorrow. It becomes a black hole of compliance. You rationalize it over and over. If I just pay this one last fee, it'll be over. I've already spent $1,000. I might as well spend $200 more to finally end it.
It is a vicious cycle of temporary anxiety relief followed by amplified demands. The only way to stop the cycle is to completely break the mechanism of compliance. You have to cut off their oxygen.
Which brings us to the most vital part of this entire deep dive, the practical application. If paying doesn't work, if it only makes things exponentially worse, and if staying silent is dangerous, what is the actual physical way out? Because right now, sitting in the victim's shoes, this sounds like an inescapable room. But there is a concrete emergency protocol, a rescue playbook for extraction based on all our sources. If you or someone you love finds themselves staring at a threatening message with a manipulated video, this is the exact triage process you must follow. Step 1. What is the immediate first move?
The immediate first move is the hardest thing to do, which is do not panic.
Okay, I have to push back hard on this. I understand it logically. But telling someone who has just been informed their life is about to be ruined not to panic is like telling someone who is currently on fire not to feel hot. Your amygdala is screaming. Your body is flooded with cortisol. It feels physically impossible to just calm down. How do you actually achieve not panicking in that moment?
You are entirely correct. You cannot just turn off the physiological fear response. Your heart will race, your hands will shake. But do not panic in this context doesn't mean do not feel fear. It means you must recognize the mechanical purpose of the fear. The scammers manufacture this panic specifically to force rushed, irrational decisions. The panic is a tool they are actively using against you.
Oh, I see. So it's about hacking your own response.
Exactly. If you can take one deep breath and intellectually recognize my urge to act instantly is exactly what they are relying on, you can short-circuit that catastrophic reaction. You have to intentionally slow down the timeline, put the phone down, walk into another room, drink a glass of water, delay. Do not react in the first 5 minutes.
Buy yourself time to let the rational part of your brain boot back up.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Delaying is a form of defense.
Yeah.
Step 2 in the playbook, and we have hammered this, but it bears repeating until we are blue in the face.
Absolute.
Do not send money.
We must reiterate this endlessly. Treat the demand for money as a complete dead end. Do not try to negotiate a lower price. Do not send a good faith payment. If you pay, the blackmail will never stop. Period.
Step 3. This is where we get highly practical with our digital defense. Preserve the evidence. You need to save screenshots of chats, phone numbers, payment requests, usernames, and any links they sent. Now again, practically speaking, when you are in full-blown panic mode, your natural instinct is to throw your phone in a river, or at the very least, furiously delete the chat and block the person so you don't have to look at the horrible video anymore. Why is deleting it a mistake?
It is a massive mistake, although a very understandable one. You want to scrub the contamination away. You want to pretend it never happened. But destroying the interaction destroys the only leverage you have. You are burning the crime scene. You must fight the urge to delete.
You have to force yourself to look at it long enough to document it.
Yes. Take screenshots of the entire conversation thread. Document their exact username because they will likely change it soon to evade detection. Document the phone numbers, the exact verbiage of the threats, and crucially, any banking details, UPI IDs, or crypto wallet addresses they provided for the payment. This is the metadata, the digital footprint that law enforcement actually needs to track these syndicates down.
You are effectively building a dossier on your attacker. Even if your hands are shaking, take the screenshots, put them in a secure folder, which leads directly into step 4. Once the evidence is preserved, immediately block and report.
Right. Once you have the screenshots, then you sever the line of communication, but you have to do it comprehensively. Use the internal reporting tools on the specific platform where the interaction occurred. Instagram, WhatsApp, Tinder. Flag the account for extortion or blackmail. This helps the platform's algorithms ban the device or IP address the scammer is using, then block the user.
Wait, if I block them, won't that just make them angry enough to immediately send the video to my contacts? Doesn't blocking trigger the exact consequence I'm trying to avoid?
It is a calculated risk, but you have to remember their business model. They are financially motivated. Releasing the video doesn't make them money. It costs them time and burns their leverage. If you block them and go silent, they realize you're not going to be a compliant, paying victim. Often, rather than waste time executing a threat out of pure spite, they will simply move on to the next vulnerable target on their list who might actually pay.
Okay, that makes sense. They were running a numbers game, not a personal vendetta, so you block them. And simultaneously, you need to tighten all your privacy settings across every social media platform immediately. Lock down the blast doors. Which brings us to step 5, moving from platform reporting to official legal action. Official cybercrime reporting. What is the actual infrastructure available for this?
In India, for example, there is a very specific, dedicated infrastructure for this exact crisis. You must utilize the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. But even more immediately, there is a dedicated national helpline number, which is 1930.
1930. Like you literally dial 1930, right?
Yeah.
That is a number that needs to be burned into everyone's memory. It's the equivalent of dialing emergency services, but specifically optimized for digital crises.
Utilizing these official channels is paramount. I know the shame makes you want to hide, but you have to understand that law enforcement agencies deal with these specific extortion syndicates daily. They are not going to judge you. They understand the mechanics. They understand the AI face swapping. They understand the psychological manipulation. And they have the technological tools to investigate the digital footprint you preserved in step 3.
And finally, step 6. This is arguably the most important step for your actual mental survival and the one that requires the most courage. Break the silence.
This is the psychological kill switch for the scam. Silence is the scammer's absolute power. You have to talk to someone, a trusted family member, a close friend, a partner, or a professional counselor.
We talked about that digital padlock of shame. Breaking the silence is taking the key and turning it. It is terrifying. You might physically shake as you say the words, but the moment you say out loud to someone you trust, someone is trying to blackmail me, the scammer's power instantly begins to evaporate.
Because you are no longer isolated. You have an ally. The burden is shared. The external perspective of a friend will immediately help you see that this is a criminal attack, not a personal moral failing. You neutralize their primary weapon, which is your isolation.
So that is the extraction playbook. Delay to stop the panic, absolutely do not pay, preserve the digital dossier, comprehensively block and report, engage official channels like 1930, and break your silence to cut off their psychological power. But extraction is what happens after the bomb goes off. Prevention is the ultimate cure. How do we armor ourselves before the attack even initiates? Let's move into proactive prevention, building your digital fortress. What are the practical safety protocols?
The first protocol is establishing a new digital boundary. Avoid answering unknown video calls entirely. Just make it a hard rule. If you do not know the person, or if you haven't explicitly scheduled a video call, do not hit accept. Let it ring out.
It's the exact digital equivalent of not opening your physical front door to a stranger wearing a ski mask at 2 in the morning. You just wouldn't do it. If it's a legitimate call, they will leave a voicemail or they will text you to identify themselves. Second protocol, skepticism as a default. Never blindly trust random profiles. This goes back to the honeypot method. Just because someone has a nice picture, a witty bio, and is friendly on a dating app does not mean they are who they say they are.
Third, never share private content where your face is visible. If you choose to engage in intimate digital interactions, you must operate under the assumption that the screen on the other end is being recorded. Protecting your identity, ensuring your face or identifiable tattoos are not in the same frame as compromising material, is a baseline defense.
And fourth, identify emotional manipulation early. If someone you just met online is suddenly extremely intense, trying to isolate you from your friends, or rushing you into intimacy or off the platform to a private chat app, those are massive red flags. But I want to dive really deep into one specific technical tip that I think is incredibly revealing about the mechanics of this crime. It's the concept of the hostages.
Yes. The directive is, do not keep your contact list or your social friends list public.
Let's explain how this actually functions as a defense. We talked earlier about how the threat isn't that they will release the video to the general void of the internet. The internet doesn't care about a random video. The specific target threat is that they will send it to your mother, your boss, your colleagues.
Right. Your contacts, your friends list, are essentially the hostages the scammer intends to use to extract the ransom from you. They need that list to make the threat credible.
So by going into your Facebook and Instagram settings today, right now, and changing your friends list from public to only me, by hiding your followers, by going into your phone settings and revoking contacts access for apps that don't absolutely need it, you are preemptively removing their leverage. You are denying them the hostages they need to terrorize you.
You are disarming the bomb before they even try to plant it. If a scammer targets you, but they can't see who your family is and they can't scrape a list of your coworkers, their threat is toothless. Pay me or I'll post this where no one you know will see it is not an effective extortion pitch. It forces them to abandon you and move on to a less secure target. It is such a simple, practical step, taking maybe 2 minutes in your settings menu, but it completely undermines their entire operational strategy.
So what does this all mean for us navigating this highly connected world? We have journeyed deep into the dark mechanics of sextortion. We've seen how they use OSINT and psychological profiling to target vulnerability. We've broken down the brutal methods, the split-second AI ambush, and the methodical, devastating honeypot. We've explored the paralyzing, destructive power of shame and the absolute trap of the escalation matrix if you choose to pay the ransom. We've also armed you with the emergency extraction playbook and the blueprint for locking down your digital fortress. Which brings us to our golden rule, the ultimate takeaway from our sources that you must internalize: do not send money out of fear of shame.
It is the single most important sentence in this entire discussion. Do not let the fear of embarrassment fund and grow criminal syndicates. Your money will not buy your reputation back. It will only lease your continued anxiety.
We want to leave you with a final, empowering message. If you are listening to this right now and you have become a victim of this scam, hear this clearly. You are not alone. You are not stupid. You are targeted by professional manipulators. This is an epidemic happening to thousands of intelligent, capable people every single day. Reporting a scam, asking for help, dialing that 1930 number is a sign of immense courage and strength, not weakness. Silence only empowers the scammers. It builds their dark empires. Awareness and the courage to speak up is your absolute best protection.
And as we close, I want to leave you with a philosophical shift to ponder long after this deep dive ends. We've talked extensively about how scammers use technology to manipulate reality editing faces, creating fake authority. But consider the trajectory of where technology is heading right now. With the rapid exponential advancement of deepfakes and generative AI, it is becoming frictionless to create hyper-realistic, completely fake videos of anyone doing absolutely anything.
That's a really profound point. In a year or two, you won't even need a 5-second screen recording. You could just take a public LinkedIn profile picture and generate a flawless fake video.
Exactly. And as these tools become ubiquitous and undeniable, perhaps our society's entire cultural concept of a scandal needs to fundamentally evolve. If seeing is literally no longer believing, if anyone can fake a video of anyone else in 5 seconds, then the power of that visual threat completely diminishes, doesn't it?
That completely flips the script. If society collectively decides to stop automatically believing, sharing, and judging every compromising video that appears in a WhatsApp group, what happens to the crime of sextortion?
The crime ceases to exist. If the threat of judgment disappears, the scammer's entire business model collapses overnight. Perhaps the ultimate long-term cure for sextortion isn't just better cybersecurity software or stricter API permissions. Perhaps the cure is a fundamental shift in how empathetic and skeptical we become as a society when someone's reputation is under attack.
I love that. The ultimate defense against digital extortion is human empathy and collective skepticism. It brings us right back to where we started. We talked about how connectivity can be weaponized, how predators can walk right through the glowing screens in our pockets. But maybe, by understanding exactly how their machinery operates, by refusing to pay the ransom, by refusing to stay silent in solitary confinement, and by refusing to judge the victims when the worst happens, we can start changing the locks on those digital doors. We can build a community where the weapon of shame just doesn't fire anymore. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and please share this vital knowledge with the people you care about.